two already. So today we're going to talk about habits and self-image, why and how they're holding you back, and then show you how to get past them. I've actually got some props for you today. We'll have a bit of fun. So if you have any questions, pop them in the comments and I will get back to you after the session today. So first of all, I want you to think of something that went well in the last few days, maybe even yesterday, and then write it down. And remember it and remember the feeling of it. Now, the question is, did you do your day one tasks? Did you go through your workbook? Did you do the homework? And I think yesterday we asked you to write down something that you really wanted. So did you do that and have a think about it? Did you start changing the way that you were thinking about it? Because we're here, right, to hold you accountable, because that is really one of the keys to success, is to hold yourself or have someone else hold you accountable. If we're not accountable, we ain't going to do nothing. Okay, so Albert Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and a different result. He said that when you change the way you look at the thing you look at changes. So really important to sort of bear that in mind as we go through the session. Now, all great leaders in the world, they agreed actually on one thing, and they disagreed on most things, but they agreed on the one thing, and that is that you become what you think about. And that's actually quite true. So let's dig into that a little deeper. So everything that exists is created twice. First, it's created in the imagination. First, it's a thought, and then it manifests in real life, right? So think of your cell phone. Think of the chair that you're sitting on, the clothes that you're wearing, maybe the company that you're working for, the house that you're living in. Someone at some time thought of all of these things first. They set a goal to achieve it, and then they decided that it was going to happen, and then it appeared in your tangible world. We talked about all those ingredients for goal setting, right? So everything is first imagined, first a thought, and then it's created in the real world. So it's created twice. So let's do an exercise. So if you can, close your eyes. If you're driving or somewhere where you can't, then don't. Be safe. But if you can, close your eyes. So I want you to think of an apple. And I want you to think of a cup of coffee. Now think of a banana. What about a hot air balloon? Think of your car. What color is your car? Think of your front door. Does it have a letterbox? Now think of your fridge. How many doors does your fridge have? And which way does your fridge open? Does it open to the left or does it open to the right? You can open your eyes now. So that exercise actually tells us a couple of things. The first thing is that you can go anywhere in your mind, right? Whatever you tell your mind believes it to be true. So now, if you can, close your eyes again. So imagine yourself in your kitchen again. And now you're standing at the worktop and you're picking up a lemon from your fruit bowl. Now, get a knife and then cut the lemon in half. And now squeeze the lemon juice into your mouth. And then a bit more. And a little bit more. Really, really taste it. So what is happening in your mouth right now? Are your jaws like squealing? And probably you got some more saliva in your mouth, right? So that's weird. But it's actually happening. You're not actually eating the lemon, are you? You're imagining that you're eating the lemon. But your body reacts to that thought, to that idea, to that imagination, as if you are eating a lemon, because it's reacting as if you really are eating a lemon. Quite interesting, right? So what that previous exercise also tells us is that we think in pictures. So when you thought of the apple, a picture came up in your mind. When you thought of the hot air balloon, a picture of the hot air balloon came up. When you thought of your car, a picture of the car came up. And I reckon that when I asked you which way your fridge doors open, that you probably in your mind went into your kitchen and stood in front of your fridge and opened the door to work that out, right? So it's interesting, right? So we think in pictures and we can go anywhere we want in our mind, and our mind will believe it to be true. So Now I'm going to ask you, what does your mind look like? And we have no picture of the mind, right? Most people will say or think of the brain, that your brain is your mind, but your brain isn't your mind. It's just a part of your body. It's like your fingernail or your toes are a part of your body. Your brain's basically an organ and it's an electronic switching station. So for us to work with the mind, we have to create a picture. We need a picture to work with it. And we generally don't have a picture of the mind. And actually, this is why when we go to therapy, it takes a long time, and a lot of the time it doesn't really work because we're trying to work with the mind, but actually we don't have a picture of the mind, so we can't really work with the mind until we have a picture of it. Now, there was a doctor, physician called Thurman Fleet back in 1934, I think, and he realized that what they were doing in the medical world is they were treating the symptoms, they were not treating the causes of illness. And he sort of realized that to treat a person properly, you'd have to treat the whole person holistically. And he really truly believed that started with the mind. So you have to treat, the physical person, the spiritual person, the emotional person, and the mind. And so he created a picture of the mind, and we call that the stick person. So here's the first one. So he drew a circle and he said, that's the mind. Then what he did was, do you like how I put them on a stick because we call it stick person? Then he drew a line through the middle of that circle and he called it, the top, he said, is the conscious mind and the bottom is the subconscious mind, right? Look head, yeah. Conscious mind and subconscious mind. And then what he did is he drew a little circle underneath with some arms and legs, and that's the body. Okay. So this isn't actually how your mind looks, right? Because your mind is everywhere, and actually mind is a movement. It's an activity. It's not a thing. It's a movement. But we need to create a picture. So this is the picture. So we have a conscious mind, a subconscious mind, and a body. Okay. So our body takes action. So we take action with our bodies and we behave in a certain way and we express it with our body. Now, there is a law called a scientific law called the law of cause and effect. And it dictates that every action has a reaction. So every action that we take with our body has a reaction. Okay. And that reaction is what we call our results. So that can be your environment, the situations that you're in, the people that you're with. Everything in your life is a result of something. So you are the cause and your results are the effect. Makes sense? Very good. Okay. Now let's dig a little bit deeper into what that then means. So you have your conscious mind, and your conscious mind is our thinking mind. It's where thoughts come up. It's where we conceptualize things. It's where we have ideas, where we reason. So it's our thinking mind. Now, the conscious mind, as the thinking mind, has the ability to accept and to reject a thought. So any thoughts that comes up, any idea that comes up, any story that comes up, we have the ability to accept that thought or reject it. Choice. So really, I always say to people, the only real freedom we have is the freedom of thought. No one can make us think anything. Sometimes it feels like they do, but they really can't. You have a complete and utter free choice as to what thoughts you allow yourself to get involved with or not. Okay, so accept or reject. Now, once we've accepted a thought or an idea, we then have the ability with our conscious mind to label it. And what we tend to do is we label something positive or negative. Now, actually, everything just is. It's our thoughts about it, our decision to make something positive or negative. I'll give an example. Was that the hairdressers was telling the story the other day. So I'm at the hairdressers and it's raining outside, and my hairdresser was really upset about the fact that it was raining. So she wasn't feeling too good because she looked at the negative side of it raining. And I said to her, well, I said, I'm really happy it's raining because it means I don't need to water my garden tonight and it saves me a half-hour job. So it was raining and she labeled it as something negative and I labeled it as something positive. So it's what you choose to do. Okay. So then what happens is that your conscious mind then impresses those thoughts and ideas and those labels, positive, negative, onto your subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind can only accept, like we did with the exercise. When you have tasted that lemon, your mind believed that. Okay, so what happens is your conscious mind impresses things and ideas and thoughts on your subconscious mind, and those thoughts and ideas are then expressed through your body, like your body reacted to the thought that you possibly are eating a lemon, right? So basically, what that means is that when our results are dictated by the actions that we take, which are guided or controlled by what's going on in our subconscious mind. And what's going on in our subconscious mind is created by our conscious mind. So ultimately, the way that you think is going to create the results that you're getting. So if you want to change your results, you've got to change the way you think. Right, cool. Now, the other thing that's interesting is that we have that conscious subconscious mind and the body that takes the action and gets the reaction, which is the result. We have some five senses, right? So we can hear, smell, taste, see, hear, smell, taste, and touch things. And it's how we perceive. We use those five senses to perceive the outside world. Now, the problem that we have is that we are really trained from a very early age to live through those senses. So what we do is we look at our outside world, we decide that we like or not like something, and then we allow that environment and those existing current results to dictate our thoughts. Now, remember, your thoughts ultimately cause your results. So guess what? What happens is that in the old way of doing things, I hope you can see this, the old way of doing things, we look at our results, it's causing our thinking because we don't take control of our thinking. So it creates thoughts, things that we don't like, that causes a feeling. That feeling is then expressed through the body. The body takes an action, action gets the reaction, and guess what? You're getting the same result. So unless you take control of your thoughts and you're going to consciously decide what you're going to involve yourself with, which thoughts you're going to involve yourself with, and whether you're going to label them positive or negative, that's what you need to do to change things. So we start with your thoughts. You control your thoughts, which then gives you a certain feeling, a different feeling to the other thoughts that you were having about results that you didn't like, different feeling, different action, different reaction, different result. So when we take control of that, consciously take control of our thoughts, then absolutely our results have to change. Interesting, right? And we're not taught about this at school, which is such a shame, because if we knew that, if we really knew how to take control of our thoughts and decide that everything has a positive and everything has a negative, we talked about this yesterday, then why not choose the positive side of the spectrum? Okay, so let that sink in for a little while. Now, think about that thing that you want. Think about the goal that you wrote down yesterday. So what are your thoughts about that goal? Are you basing them on your current results? So, if you're in debt, for instance, do you keep thinking about debt? Well, we become what we think about. So if you keep thinking about debt and getting out of debt, then you're never going to find the money. Now, if you choose to think about how you're going to make some money, guess what? Then you're going to come into the money. Okay. And if maybe there's something, I know to keep taking the gym as an example, but if you don't like the way that your body is, how are you thinking about your body? Are you seeing yourself as a fit and healthy person, or are you seeing yourself as an unfit and not so healthy person? Okay. So really explore that goal that you wrote down yesterday. What are your thoughts about that? And are they positive or negative? Right? So now imagine that it is possible for you to achieve that goal. Imagine how you would feel if you achieved that goal. It'd be great, wouldn't it? So when you start to think it's possible, you start to feel differently and you start to act and behave differently. And guess what? You're going to get some different results. So how do you stay in charge of those thoughts? Well, we do that by training our higher mental faculty. So we've got our five senses, which allow us to perceive the outside world. And then we have our six mental faculties, or mental muscles, you can call them, which allow us to take control and keep control and stay in control no matter what the circumstances are, right? So the six are imagination, reason, perception, will, memory, and intuition. And in my training, we learn all about those. We have a whole 2 weeks on those and how to use them and how to make them stronger. So it's like a workout in the gym. When you train your muscles, they get stronger, right? But most people don't even know that we have these six mental muscles, and they use them very unconsciously and mostly in the wrong way. So, for instance, take imagination, the first one I mentioned. So we're imagining why we can't do something. We're imagining why it's not possible. We're imagining things that we don't want. We worry about things. Now, for you to worry about something, you have to imagine something that's not real, but something that you don't want, right? Because that creates a feeling of worry and anxiety. So what we would learn is how to use that imagination so that it gets you to where you want to be rather than where you don't want to be. And for the ocean freight logistics people in here, this is an example. So imagine there's a captain to Los Angeles. Now the captain is in charge, the crew's helping him. They have a direction. We talked about this yesterday. They have a goal. They're going to LA. They have a direction, and they will get to LA 99.99999% of the time because the captain is taking control of the ship. Now imagine that same ship without a captain or a crew and without a destination. So even if that ship, if you started the ship and it got out of the harbor, it probably wouldn't get very far, wouldn't go anywhere. It certainly wouldn't get to LA. And even if it did after 5 years, that would be way too late, right? So we've said it a few times now. So you become what you think about. So you've got to be careful what you're thinking about. What thoughts do you allow yourself to become involved with? What do you choose to label those thoughts? What stories are you telling yourself? So here's another prop. So this is a plant pot and it's got some earth in it, okay, some soil in it. Now imagine that your subconscious mind, where's my thing gone? Your subconscious mind is the soil, right? And what we do with soil, we plant seeds, right? So here I have some flower seeds, and I'm going to plant those in the soil. So there we go. See? There we go. So they're planted. Now, these are, what are the seeds? They are wildflowers. Okay, so if I plant those wildflowers in the soil, and imagine that the seeds are your thoughts, I plant them in the soil, and I'll water them, and I nurture them, and I leave them be, and I allow them to grow, then guess what? The soil is going to grow them, and after a period of time, I'm going to have some really nice wildflowers growing. Now, imagine that I planted a poisonous plant, maybe nightshade, and I watered it, and I nurtured it, and I looked after it, and I let it be for a while. After a while, the earth would grow the deadly nightshade. The earth doesn't care what you plant as long as you nurture it and you give it attention and you look after it and you let it grow. It'll grow whatever you plant. And it's exactly the same with your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind doesn't care what you tell it. It will believe it to be true. It accepts it. And if you nurture that thought and you give it attention, then for sure, your subconscious mind will believe it. Now, this is where so in the subconscious mind, because we've been told different stories from when we were little, we've been conditioned in certain ways, we've basically been programmed. It means that our subconscious mind does not question that at all. And so we take a lot of action because we've created a habit. So a paradigm is a multitude of habits or your belief system, the conditioning that you have. And we don't question it and we just accept it. And so our body is taking action and we're doing things and we're behaving in certain ways because of the way that we're conditioned, right? Because of those paradigms. Now, I know I keep repeating, but it's really important you get it. So your thoughts create your feelings, that those feelings dictate and control your actions and your behavior, and that's what's going to get you the results. And that's what we call paradigm. So in fact, 98% of what we do is automatic, is programmed, right? So think of driving your car. When you first learn to drive your car, you have no clue how to operate that car. You have to do it very, very consciously. Okay? But now, after you've been driving your car for a good few years, you can drive 200 miles from A to B without even thinking about it. And when you get to your destination, you don't even know how you got there. Crazy, right? But that's because you formed a habit. Now, a habit is when your body knows better what to do and how to do something than your mind does. That's why it's a habit. And we talk about beliefs, and a belief really is just a thought that you keep thinking over and over again. So when you start thinking a different thought and you start telling yourself a different story over and over again, and one that is aligned with the goal that you want to achieve, then guess what? You're going to get moved closer to your goal. And so for you to achieve anything at all, you need to be in harmony with that thing that you want to achieve, because like attracts like. So before you can do something or have something, first you have to be it. You've got to be aligned and in line with what you want. So the person that's living your life today is not the person that's living your goal, right? So you've got to align yourself, and you've got to make sure that your beliefs and your habits and your actions are going to be in line with that, achieving that goal. So let's get back to behaviors and habits. So it's really your beliefs and your habits that rule the roost, right? They're in charge, because 98% of what we do is automatic. Think of your day and think of all the things that you did. You'll probably have to think very hard what you did, because most of the things you do are automatic. Okay? And so there's an automatic way of doing things, but there's also an automatic way of thinking. And there's an automatic or habitual way of feeling. Okay? So everything is automated. So it means that basically whatever's living in your subconscious mind is dictating how you're living your life and dictating your results. Now, I want you to do another exercise. So some of you have been following me, you might have seen this one before, but it's always good to do it again. So I want you to shake your arms out, and then I want you to fold your arms. Okay. Now shake your arms out again, and now fold your arms, but fold them the opposite way of how you normally do it. Like I still get mixed up. Okay. Okay, now shake your arms again and do it again. So fold your arms to the opposite way to how you would normally fold them. And then do it again. Last time, shake out. And fold them again the opposite way to how you would normally do that. Right, so that again tells us something. So the first time it was quite confusing and quite difficult, right? Because you've not done it before. The way that you do it, you've never really thought about it. So what you needed to do was you needed to become aware of how you were doing it. And then you had to consciously work out how to change that. So it takes awareness and effort to identify a habit, a habitual behavior. Okay, so then what you needed to do, so you became aware of how you're doing it, and then you needed to start thinking differently to change the action. Right? So the thing is that if I asked you to do it a few times today, it would become easier and easier. But if I asked you again tomorrow, you'd have to think about it again, right? Now, if I asked you to fold your arms for the rest of the week in the opposite way that you would normally do it, you'd have to remember to do that, right? So you'd have to be aware that every time you folded your arms, you're supposed to be doing it a different way. So that's going to take some effort and awareness and some thought and some focus for you to start to change that. So changing a habit is absolutely possible, but it's not necessarily really easy, because the reason you're doing it this way is because you've repeated it over and over again. So if you want to now do it a different way, you've got to repeat that way over and over again. Here's a question for you. So when you get dressed, which leg do you put into your pants first? Is it your left leg or your right leg? So why is that? You're putting your pants on now, you're wondering, right? Thinking in pictures again. So why is that? Well, the person that was dressing you when you were little most likely would have said, if you stuck your left leg out to put your trousers on, they would tap your leg and go, no, other leg. And then you put your right leg in. Right? So you were conditioned by somebody else, because they were in their habit of doing the things they were doing it, to put your right leg in first. And that's why you're doing it now. Now, It's weird and it's bizarre, and it's a crazy example, really, but you've never even thought about that up to now, right? You've never even wondered why you put your right leg or your left leg in first. You never questioned it. Now, it's exactly the same with any conditioning that we have, right? Any beliefs that we hold. So, from being very, very little, in fact, when we're babies up to being about 7 years old, our subconscious mind is completely open. So, we accept everything into our subconscious mind. Everything that's given, all the information that comes in, we accept it because our conscious mind is not quite developed yet and we can't reason properly yet. And so, we basically accept everything in there. So, whatever our parents told us was true, we believe it. Whatever we learned at school, we believe it. And the only reason we believe it is because they told us over and over again that that's how it was. And the things that we did, so, and we'll talk tomorrow about time and money mindset. So when you think of money, you'll find that, for instance, people that are on benefits are probably third, fourth generation people on benefits. That's what they're used to. Okay? Now, you're completely conditioned, and then after you're 7 years old, you get conditioned from further outside at the outside world, and we tell ourselves a lot of stories, right? So we're not really taught to think well of ourselves. We're not really taught to be proud of ourselves. We're not really taught to, think good things about ourselves. We're very, very critical normally, but it's not true. It's only just you believe it because that's your habitual way of thinking, and because you've never questioned the belief. So think about that, the current belief that you hold about your goal, right? And why you can't have it. Now, the only reason you haven't achieved it is because your belief system is not aligned, your conditioning is not aligned, your behavior is not aligned with achieving that goal. So think about what is your belief about that goal and why do you believe that you can't have it? Why do you believe that you can't have what you really want? Because it's just a story, right? So question the story. Where did that belief come from? Who told you that you can't have it? And if it was you, why are you telling yourself you can't have it? Okay? So start changing that story, and rather than ask yourself why you can't, ask yourself how you can, and then watch what happens. And the thing to actually bear in mind is that you have to consciously replace a bad habit with a good one. So, for instance, someone who wants to stop smoking and is stopping smoking, a lot of the time they'll start eating. Maybe they'll start eating chocolate. Okay, so and a lot of my clients actually, they before they sort of start working with me, they'll say, "Well, I changed jobs. I stopped working 60 hours in one job, but now they're working 60 or 70 hours in the next job." Okay, so you really have to reprogram yourself, and you really have to start believing a different thing. Now, remember, a belief is just a thought you keep thinking, a story you keep telling yourself. So start telling yourself that different story and see how it works. So if you believe, for instance, that you have to work 60 hours a week because, ask yourself, what is the because? Because you don't have to work 60 hours a week. You don't have to work 40 hours a week. You had the example yesterday, right? Lots of people don't work 60 hours a week and they probably earn twice the money that you do. Now, we also talked about blueprint before. So this is all about how you see yourself. And this is also known as your self-image. Now, actually, your self-image is one of your biggest paradigms, right? It's how we see ourselves, what we believe we can do, what we believe we can't do. And the thing is that if you believe that you can, that you're right, and if you believe that you can't, you're also right. But you would be taking very, very different actions depending on what you believed, right? So, in fact, if you believed that you can't do something or have something, you probably wouldn't take any action at all. So think about your goal. If you believe that you could do it, so think of what you want and imagine that it is possible. What action would you take right now if you believed it was possible? Now go and do it. So I want you to think about that today. What action, if you believed it was possible, what action would you be taking? So go and do it. Maybe you want to buy that house, but you don't think you can afford it. Now, if you thought that you could, what action would you take? You'd probably go and have a look at the house. You'd phone the estate agent. You'd work out, where maybe you could get a different mortgage from a different company. Okay? All these ideas will start to come up. So your self-image is really like a thermostat. It's like if it's 20 degrees in the room, So you've got your thermostat and you put it to 20 degrees. And if it goes cold, somebody might have opened a window and it drops down to 17 degrees. I'm talking Celsius here. What your thermostat does is it sends a message to the combi boiler. The heating then kicks in, and then the house starts to warm up. And when it's back to 20 degrees in the room, the heating switches off and the thermostat's happy. Okay, so your it's like a thermostat. So your self-image is very much like that. It's very much controls the temperature of your life. Now, what it will do is it will push you on. Right? So if you go to the gym normally and you take a few days and you rest on the couch, your self-image will go, wait, you're not a couch potato. You go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. And then it pushes you on into action. So this is a habit. So once we have a habit, it feels weird if we don't do it, right? So another great example would be if you take a weekend off, maybe you even take Friday off as well, maybe even Monday. So imagine that you've taken Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. You will absolutely be itching to check your emails during that time. There'll be some periods of time where you totally feel that you need to check your emails before Monday, right? Because your self-image is that's what you do over the weekend. But the self-image pushes you on, but it also holds. So maybe you've been to the gym for a couple of weeks and your self-image goes, you're a couch potato. You don't go to the gym. You don't need to go. Listen, you don't need to go today. Before you know it, you're 3 months down the line, you haven't been. Or think of a salesperson who might be, turning over revenue of $100,000 every month. So 1 month they may be down to 70K a month, or maybe even for a couple of months. But they will make it up, and at the end of the year, the average goes back to 100K a month. A month, yeah. And maybe that person does 150K for a couple of months, but guess what? There'll be a couple of months after that where he doesn't do as well and still averages at the end of the year 100,000K per month. That's bizarre, right? Now, maybe another salesperson who has, sells exactly the same product in exactly the same market, has the same leadership, has the same tools, the same training. Now, they may only do 50K a month. And then another one may do 250K a month consistently. So why is that? Excuse me. Why is that? Well, the only difference between them is the way that they think, the way that they see themselves, and what they believe is possible for them. So if you want to go from 50K a month to 250K a month turnover, all you need to do is think differently. Right? So your self-image, we also liken it to a rocket flying to the moon. So there's a cybernetic mechanism there that keeps it on track. So it may go off course, but then the cybernetic mechanism brings it back on course. There's actually a really good book by Maxwell Maltz called Psycho-Cybernetics. Brilliant book, really, really interesting. Definitely worth reading. So anyway, so back to the rocket. So it's off course, and then the cybernetic mechanism puts it back on course, off course, on course, off course. In fact, that rocket is off course about 98% of the time, but it gets to the moon because the cybernetic mechanism keeps it on track, it course corrects it. Same with us. Our self-image will course correct us. So we're destined for somewhere and it will course correct it. Okay? And it will basically keep you anchored where you are. Now, Henry Ford said, for us to create a new model, for us to start using a new model, we have to make the old model obsolete. That's all you have to do. So there's no need to work on the negative side of things. There's no need to work on your negative habits. All you need to do is to replace those negative habits, that negative thinking, that negative feeling with a positive, and get into the habit of looking for the good in everything, and get into the habit of pivoting your mind, controlling your mind, so that you think of the positive in something, you think about how you can rather than why you can't. And so the mistake many people make is that we try to change our behavior and our actions, which is why, for instance, New Year's resolutions don't really stick for very long, because we're using our will, another one of our mental muscles, one of our mental faculties. We're trying to use our will to change the behavior, but the behavior is not the root cause. The behavior is an effect of our thinking. So what we need to change is the way we think, because the different thought process is going to change our paradigm. And remember, it's your paradigm that's going to dictate the actions that you take. So what we really have to do is change the way you see yourself and change your self-image, because then automatically your behavior and your actions will change and you will get a completely different result. Now, the thing is, I think I mentioned it before, that the way that we create a habit or a belief system, a conditioning, is through constant spaced repetition. I always give the example, I used to go to school in Holland and I would learn my timetables. And we used to sing our timetables over and over and over and over again. So now I know my timetables from 1 to 10 off by heart. I don't have to count anymore. I just know what they are because I've repeated it over and over and over again. Okay? Now, this is what we have to do with training our mind. It's like training a dog. You've got to train it and make sure that you bring it back. So if you're off track, bring it back. So you're thinking about your goal, you're having some good thoughts about it, then the negative thought comes in, law of polarity, bring it back to the good thought. You've got to keep doing it. And the more you do it, you use your will to do it, the stronger that becomes and the easier it starts to get for you. But you have to keep doing it. And so the only way to change something is, again, through constant spaced repetition. There is actually another way, which is through emotional impact, so like an emotional shock. I'll give you the example here. So say you meet somebody and they're 50 odd years old and they're absolutely petrified of small spaces, especially getting into a lift. Now, when you dig into that, what happened was that when they were 4 years old, they got locked in a lift. Or maybe, all of us as a little kid, have got locked into a toilet somewhere, right? So anyway, the person's got locked into a lift, 4 years old, absolutely panicked because they don't know what to do to get out of that lift. Okay, so that was a shock and emotional impact that really made them scared of lifts. But what happens then is they're immediately conditioned to be scared of lifts. Now the problem is that was when they were 4 years old. And of course, a 4-year-old doesn't know what to do when they get stuck in a lift. But a 50-odd-year-old person does. So if you now at 50-odd got stuck in a lift, actually you would know exactly what to do. One, you would know to press the alarm buzzer. You would know someone would be missing you, so they would be looking for you. Someone would notice that the lift wasn't working. So you don't actually need to panic. But because you've had that shock of an emotional impact and that has conditioned you to be afraid of lifts, elevators for our American friends, you really don't need to be, right? So you've got to question all of these things. Anyway, so negative impact, negative shock, creating a condition or a belief is normally negative. So what we work on is constantly repeating a new thought, a new story, a new belief, a new action. Now, the thing is that very, very few people can actually do this without a coach or a mentor, without someone that's holding them accountable, right? Because your paradigm is so strong, it will always pull you back to your old ways. Now, think of anybody who's good at anything, they have a mentor or a coach, right? Or an instructor. So we think of athletes and tennis players and basketball players, footballers, etc. Everybody at the top of their game, they all have a coach, probably more than one coach. If you want to learn to play the piano, I remember when I wanted to learn to play jazz piano, when my instructor was coming on Thursday, I was at that piano mostly over the weekend. But if I didn't do it at the weekend, I'd be practicing by Tuesday, right? Because someone was coming in to hold me accountable for doing that. Now, singers and artists, they all have experts showing them what to do, right? And coaching them how to do it and then holding them accountable. So if you really want to make a change and you really want to step out of that comfort zone, and actually it's outside of that comfort zone is where the magic happens, right? That's what we always say. That's where your growth happens. We talked about this yesterday. Think of your PT pushing you on in the gym, right? I think I said this yesterday. You think you can do 7 sit-ups and they push you and you end up doing 10. Okay, so if seriously, if you really want to make that change, then come and talk to me, because I would love to find out what it is that you want to do and give you some real top tips as to how to very quickly start to achieve that. And we very quickly and permanently will help you to make some of those improvements. Now, imagine just for a moment how it would feel to live that goal, to live the way that you really want to live, right? How would it benefit you? How would it benefit your loved ones? So a lot of my clients, after even within a week or so, they take the stress out of their life, right? And so they take the thinking about work when they're with the family out of their life. They're way healthier. I've had a good few clients whose blood pressure has dropped just because they've taken the stress out, right? So really think about that. Think about if you could lift that goal, what would it mean for you and what would it mean for your loved ones? And don't you want to live that way? Don't you want to do that? You deserve it, right? Now, it is absolutely possible. Absolutely possible. Like I said yesterday, if you can think about it, if you can think of it, you can absolutely do it. But you just need to work out how to do it, right? And that's what we're here to help you with. Now, until you really start seriously entertaining the new idea, the goal, with your conscious mind, no ideas are going to come up about how to do it. So if you're just sort of dilly-dallying and thinking, yeah, that would be nice, but you're not giving it any serious attention, nothing's going to show up for you. But once you start thinking about it seriously, you're starting to consider it seriously, guess what? And you're asking yourself how you can do it, you're going to have ideas popping into your mind, ideas that are not there now because you're currently living in this frame of reference. And I will get you to think outside of that box and new ideas will start to come up. So it's when those new ideas start to come up, that's how you're figuring out how to do it. Simple, right? Anyway, I love this session. I think I've gone a little bit over time. Hope you enjoyed it. And I really look forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time, same place. And we'll explore a couple of huge paradigms, which are time and your money mindset. Looking forward to that. So message me for your workbook if you haven't got it, so you can get cracking on with that. And tomorrow I've got a actually really good offer for you as well that I'll share with you tomorrow. And your homework is to write down a non-productive habit that you have, and then to write down what would be the productive habit, what would be the opposite to that, what would be the productive habit. And then I want you to do that habit, do it, take that action for a week every day and see how you go. Lovely to see you all again. I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Any questions, let me know. I will get back to the questions and the comments in the chat box after I switch off now. Enjoy the rest of your day.